Yo, what's up everyone? So let's carry on. And the next thing we want to do is figure out how we can move this player. So we are the player. How do we move them in VR? And you could still apply this to non-VR. So we'll do two methods. One will be lerping. Lerping is very similar to how we open and close this door. See, that's using a linear interpolation to look like an animation. So we could, click enter and then make this player. We could just make this player move like that. It's okay for some small implementations, but I wouldn't probably use it all the time unless you want to put a lot of time and effort into lerping. Another thing we can look into is how to do proper teleportation. So you look at a portal, an object, and you can teleport to there or to a different location. You could spin the code into that way. So let's quickly just recap. Okay, so we've covered off pink, how to integrate Google Cardboard. We've covered off blue, light blue, the environment, and all of this stuff, even firing the VR button. What we want to do now is teleporting. So not this thing, not collision detection. We can cover that in bullets. Instead, change object, click object to change location, and LERP. And we've already kind of covered LERP in the door side of things. So yeah, let's get back to this. So what we want to do is make a new script so we can move this player, not the VR player. We have a parent empty game object, which is what we would be using to move the player. It's just a way that you've got to do it for Google Cardboard. So let's find where you save your script. I made a separate script subfolder, and we're just going to call it player. And then you can attach it to your player. So click your player, attach it in there, double click, get it to load up. What you want to do, very similar to the door, is you want to make a private variable of a vector3 type, and it's going to be target position, basically exactly the same as what we did for the door. Then you can make a public vector3 called building position, because we want to, we'll just say that. In fact, we might even see some coordinate entry sections, input sections here. What we want to do is the building position, this thing here, which has just been injected from the code. We want to know where is the position that we want this player to be. We can call it anything. I just call it building position. In fact, while I've got the mouse, let's get a better view. When the player looks at this enter button, we want them to go to something like this, which is 8.9. So let's just call it 9. So we don't want to mess with the X, the left and right, and we don't want to mess with the Y, especially we haven't enabled gravity and physics and that type of thing right now. So the player will be flying and not moving in the air, so it'll be a bit weird. So let's just keep the Y the same, 1.7. And I believe we had 9 for the Z. So right now we're on -14. When you hit the enter, we want to move to +9, something like that. Okay, so we've set it there. If we go back to our code, just like in the door script, we're going to tell it what is the initial target position. So the transform position of this player, because look, we're inside the player, and this code is attached to the player. So, you know, this dot transform position, you can put this if you really want. You know, the player's transform position equals the target position. In fact, I should really do that the other way around. So the target position, this variable that we've set there, is equal to, oh my god, what's going on here? Is equal to the transform position of the player. Okay, just like we did on the door. So, and you know, we'll add a comment. So when you get this from GitHub or wherever, it will say initializing means setting the initial coordinates of the target position to be the same as the player's starting position. You know, it means something like that. And then what we want to do is we're going to make a new method. So we'll call it a public void. That way other scripts can access this, and yeah, we'll call it in from the VR player script, because that has the if statement of when you hit the Google Cardboard, you know, the VR headsets button, and then it does the raycast, so we know we'll call it in from there. So entered building, put those brackets, put the regular brackets and put the curly brackets, because that's what you have to do for methods. And then what we're going to say is the target position equals the building position. So initially we've told that the target position is the position of the player, so the player is in this position. But then once somebody calls this method, change the target position to the building position. And as we did with the door, we did it in the door, didn't we? Yeah. We made that LERP script, the linear interpolation between 2 points script. So we're just going to do the same thing here. So we're going to say transform, so the player's transform position equals a vector3 dot LERP, and then we have to give it the parameters. So we're going to say it's going to be the transform position, and then it's going to look for the difference between the target position, and it's going to, the speed is going to be time.delta time. So if I go back to the door, we do the same thing. The door's transform position, you know, it becomes a new vector3, kind of a new vector3, and it uses the LERP method or class or whatever, and it's going to, you know, look for the difference. It says something about a plus b minus a times t for time. It's just going to look for the difference between the door's now position, this position, and the target position, and the target position keeps changing based on different methods. So yeah, we're just doing that for the player. And I think we're done in this script. Now we need to go to the VR player. And what have we said? We've said if input.get button down fire 1. So if you've hit that magnet, or not the magnet, the button that hits your phone on the Google VR headset, or if you've hit your mouse, because it also works for left mouse click, you know, send us a message saying player has clicked the VR headset. And then when you hit something with a tag called enter, what we want to do is also call in hit dot. We might have an easier way to call in. We want to basically tell it to trigger this method, because when it triggers this method, it's going to change the player's target position to building position, and then the update script, which runs, for example, 60 times a second, is going to be looking for, has the Has the target position changed? If so, I need to LERP animate between. We might be able to even do something cool where we could say public player. This will just save us having to write this transform get component code. Public player. So we're going to look for the player class, which means like the code. And then if we go back to Unity, we're going to go into the VR player, and that's going to say who's the player. Drag that code in, drag the game object there, and it's going to basically, it's not accessing the game object, it's accessing the code that's in a game object. And then, you know, if you didn't want to do that, you could just write this code again and just change door button to player. But so now we could just potentially write player. What did we even call it? I think we called it entered. Yeah, we called it entered building. So you would just write, you know, inside that same if block. So, you know, if the tag enter has been hit by that laser raycaster, just let it go player entered building. I think this will do the job. This will move the player that we're going to, let me get to console. You'll know when I've clicked because you'll see a message. Yeah, we clicked and it's moving. Now the thing is, there's still another way to do LERP even better. If you look here, this number is not yet reached its 9 building position, and it never really will unless you do another calculation about when, how to kind of fake or trick the game engine to realize it's got to the end, because it's always doing this B-A thing, and it just so that this is not the proper way to LERP, but it's kind of good enough most of the time. So yeah, let's just have a look at that again. Okay, so we have got a code to say when you click the Google VR headset and you've hit the enter button, open the door, and also call in another method to change the player's target position to the building position. But you know, we've had to manually set that position over here as well. There's ways you can kind of not manually set it, and you can tell it to look for a random range between a certain set of numbers or parameters. But okay, what we're going to do, let's kind of try and now delete some of that stuff, because I'll show you another way to properly teleport without following an animation path. Because you know, in reality or in a game, there might be a wall in the way, and if you've got physics on, you can't just animate into the wall. You'd crash the wall or die or something like that. So you want to just be able to jump location and properly teleport. So let's just get rid of everything we've just done. I think we did it all in the player. Okay, we can leave that. We can leave that. In real life, it's not good to leave code that you don't really use because it's just wasting resource. And I think it's just that we can get rid of. Yeah. Okay, so now what we want to do is make an actual teleporter. To do that, we need to make another code or another script. So let's just call this teleporter. I spelled it wrong. Just delete it. Let's make another one. Okay. And let's drag it to the enter button. But before we do that, let's just make an empty game object, reset the position to 0, 0, 0, and call this UI buttons. And then we can put the enter and exit button into here. The reason is now I can just, well, one of the reasons, I can just move both buttons in one go. And I can keep things organized. If I really wanted to, I could like hide both the buttons in one go if I had loads of things going on. Anyway, inside the enter button, I'm going to drag the teleporter. So the teleporter script also exists there. Now let's just click the teleporter script. Now we've got to think to ourselves, what are we trying to do? Let's think what we're trying to do. We're trying to say this player, this camera is a player in our instance. If you look at my endless runner VR tutorial, you'll see inside the player I put a capsule which could become a motorbike. So you can put things inside a player, so you know, like hands or guns, so it looks like it's a real player. But for now, we have this camera is our player. We want this player to move to whatever is a portal where the object and whatever is clicked. So when you click the enter button, we want to move there, and then this door will open, and then we'll click something inside. Okay, so inside the teleporter script, it needs to know what is the player. So we're going to say public game object player. We don't necessarily need the player's code, we just need the game object so we can get its transform position. Now by doing this, there's two things that happen. Well, one thing that happens actually. We've already put the teleporter in the button, so now it's saying who is the player. So you could just drag it in there. That's probably the quick and better way to do things. But what I like to do sometimes as well is something like this, where you go player, because I'm referencing this lowercase player I just wrote here, equals game object dot find with a capital F, then you do your brackets and you do your quote marks, and you are now typing the exact name of the object in the hierarchy. The reason I've done this is I can now keep dragging and dropping this teleporter script to other objects, and I don't have to then keep manually dragging in the player. So let's say I make another 10 portals. If I didn't do that game object dot find script over here, every single time I would need to manually drag the player into this section. So if I press play, it's automatically filled it in because it looked for that script, but you have to get the spellings right, and sometimes you have to do a few other things if you've hidden it away or nested it away. Anyway, if we were to now look at the enter button and click it, there's no teleportation because we haven't really told the teleporter what to do. Okay, so we know we've told it, at least we've told it, you know, who the player is or what the player is. We need to make a public method. So we're going to put it public void, call it what you want, just you know, call it something that you will remember what it is. And now we can say player dot transform dot position. So whenever this method is called, the player's actual transform position is going to become a new vector3. So, you know, as you remember, vector3 needs an x, y, and a z. So what we're going to do is we are inside the teleporter script, and the teleporter script is attached to an object. So in this case, it's attached to that enter button. So we're going to say make the player's position become the position of whatever is in that teleporter script, whatever is attached to that teleporter script. So the enter button, make it become the transform position X, Y, and even Z of the button. But I haven't given an offset, so it will just teleport inside the button itself. Okay, So it's still not going to do anything because we haven't told Unity when to trigger that that method. So now we need to go back into the VR player and say, if you've hit something with the tag enter because you've already activated your raycast, you've already activated your if statement to check if the button has been clicked, you want to do something like above, but you want to look for the teleport script. So hit.transform dot get component with the 2 triangle brackets, and then you're looking for the teleporter script now. So if whatever you've hit has a teleporter script, then what did we even call that method? Then I spelled it wrong. Teleport. Okay. So if you hit something that has a tag enter, and then look for the teleporter component, and then look for the teleport method and do that. So now we're basically telling it to activate this, change the player's position, because we've told what the player is, into the exact X, Y, and Z of the object with the enter tag. So let's go to Unity. I think that probably does the job. Yeah, so I clicked and I've ended, but the thing is I've ended up inside the enter button. When I click the close button, there is no teleporter script in the close button. I've ended up inside the enter button, so that's a bit lame. So I would suggest we go -2F on the Z. So that way we will be just before the enter button and we can see the enter button then. So I'm going to click, and now I'm just in front of this enter button. So what I can do now is I can just drag this teleporter script to the exit button, but it ain't going to do anything because we haven't told, I'll show you, we haven't told the exit tag or button to, to teleport. We've told the enter one to, but we haven't told the exit one to. So yeah, we've only got one tag on this object. So what we're going to do is a shortcut is we're just going to tell the exit tag, if you've hit that, also, close the door, but also activate the teleporter. So now we can start teleporting and jumping around and moving around. So you can already see you probably can make a cool game just from this type of concept alone. But now we want to get into this building. So let's make another tag called, okay, remember to get your tags, there's a few ways. You can go there and do add tag. You can go to edit project settings, and then you look for this tag thing here. I just docked it. So what am I going to write here? What tag? Teleport. Okay. So let's make an empty game object. Reset it to 0, 0, and then we'll call it portals. And inside that, we could make a sphere. Now, where is this sphere? Let's just make it visible. Okay, so let's also throw a material on it. So I've got a few materials I made earlier. Just make it red. And first we're just going to see, is this thing visible once I open the door? So okay, so let's go to our console so we know, okay, I just click nothing there. Oh yes, I can see it there. A little bit high, so let me drag it down. Okay, so now we need to modify the code because this sphere, we're just going to call it portal. We need to drag that teleporter into the portal, and we don't even need to worry that this player thing says none, because when I play via code, it's already found the player in the hierarchy. If you change the name of the player here, then it will all collapse. So that's the risk with it. And then we're going to go back into our C# code, and we're only right now looking for enter and exit. So we're going to need to make another else if. So we're inside from this if. We're inside if the button, the VR button, has been clicked, then it's going to start, seeing has a raycast taken place, and if a raycast taken place, has it hit enter, has it hit exit. Let's see, did we even apply the tag? We didn't even apply the tag, so let's apply teleport. So we're going to say else if hit dot transform dot tag double equals means compare. So is it teleport? If it is, we don't want to mess with the door opening and closing. We just want to basically just want to copy this thing. We want to get into the teleporter's code, and then we want to access this teleport. That's why I made it public so we can get into it. We want to access this code which says change the player's position to a new vector3, which becomes whatever the teleport code is attached to, that's being hit, to its X, Y, and almost Z. So just 2 meters before its Z depth position. And it's if, else if, and else if. So it's going to kind of be looking for all of these things. And I think this should do the job. So I could get to the enter, get there, and now from here, okay, we're stuck because we've got a wall in the way. So what we want to do is we can just start duplicating, and now we don't even have to do any more codes, because these, when they duplicate, they'll already have the portal code, a portal tag on them. They'll already find the player's game object and its transform positions itself. Okay, so now click and we're in. Let's go to console. You can see when I've clicked, because there's no gravity, I just kind of stay in the air. But yeah, that's teleporting. In a future tutorial, let's see if we can get to the exit. Do I have anything positioned? I can see the exit. There, we're out. We're good. So in a future tutorial, we will cover moving and jumping. And I think one good way to move would be when you look down, then you move forward, with your head movement, and you can emulate that on the keyboard. There's a few other ways. You could say when you've pressed the button like twice, then move forward X amount of steps or meters, but this way you can just keep free moving, and the rotation will work with it as well, so you can just keep turning your rotation. And then yeah, you could teleport to jump longer distances. But yeah, like, comment, subscribe, share, the usual. And yeah, I'll see you in another tutorial. See ya.